Hey folks, if you're looking for an in-depth review, you're in the right place. As for today, I'm going to be tackling a review key I received from some students at Aalborg University in Copenhagen. Specifically, Enlit Games' light-based puzzler, Temple of Starlight. But having dived deep into their project, was this an enlightening experience? Or did I ultimately hold a dim view? I'm your host Arlyeon, let's find out together. Once upon a time, a set of neighboring kingdoms flourished, empowered by the light of the heavens. Yet that state of prosperity ultimately proved to be fleeting as one by one the light of the stars vanished, threatening ruin for the kingdoms as resources grew tight and a strange ailment began to spread through the countryside. And yet, neither the red nor blue rulers could come to an accord, ultimately leaving the fate of the region in the hands of you, the Green Regent. A little weird that it's not yellow when I think about it, but then again, my eyes are grateful for that fact. In any case, the story slowly unfurls as you progress deeper into the temple, with some of it coming in the form of Green's monologues about the situation, or the various encounters they have with the other rulers, as they try and ascertain what would be the best decision to take insofar as the future of the kingdom. Choices which you actually get to take an active part in, and then explore the aftermath as you delve deeper into the stages. Admittedly, the actual differences ultimately felt fairly mild, especially given how the game culminates in a set of binary choices which seemed unaffected by my earlier actions, to the point that I could actually even change my choice at the last second. But even if the ultimate outcome still remains the same, I will say I did appreciate the small changes in the dialogue as I progressed towards that point. Beyond that, I will give credit to the stages themselves, given that there's some environmental storytelling elements which help to reflect the story being told. Either way though, that brings us to the gameplay, and honestly, I found myself rather endeared by Temple of Starlight's mechanical concept. Essentially, it plays out as a stage-based puzzler where your advancement can either be hindered or helped through the colors which saturate a room. For example, you might be unable to access the exit while a blue lantern is pointed towards the door, as it fills in the blue outline in its threshold. Alternatively, you might not be able to advance until a red lantern highlights an area and fills in a red-hued segment that now serves as a bridge. In practice, it's not overly complex, especially in the earlier segments, but it doesn't take the game too long to begin adding some nuance to the whole. Some of it seems fairly basic at first, such as the introduction of movable lanterns, but even then there'll come a time where you'll need to precisely angle things in order to highlight some objects while eschewing others from their cones of light, or being mindful of how you might need a mixed color somewhere at a certain interstice while still trying to avoid something else being colored. Perhaps in order to highlight an object so that it can gain solidity and be pushed around, possibly used to blockade another immovable light, if the game doesn't simply have you use your own shadow in order to advance. Ultimately, while things started as a breeze, there were a few puzzle rooms that provided some serious food for thought as I tried to solve them, which made it legitimately lovely when I discovered that I could have simply backed out of any time if something had come up, since there's a stage select built right into the game. There's also a set of bonus levels you can tackle after the main campaign, which do provide some decent puzzles, making use of everything you learned along the way, which I wound up putting down during the second map after I got a pumpkin somehow locked in mid-air. Anyways, it's a simple enough experience that this really does sum things up nicely on the gameplay side, so let's talk shop visually, and ultimately I think it does a serviceable job. All in all, the stage design works quite well, and I liked how the game made use of its lighting during the puzzles. Yes, occasionally rooms will wind up looking like a weird rainbow nightmare as you progress through the puzzles with eyeball-searing arrangements, but I was able to forgive it, especially when I realized they took into account colorblind players and included a neat accessibility feature which marks the various colors with symbols, effectively providing means to signal which kind of light needs to be directed or disabled in order to be advanced. It's a pretty clever workaround, really. As for the sound department, I thought it was alright. While the voice acting definitely feels amateurish, I still found it rather charming, and the actual soundtrack itself is nice and relaxing as far as an accompaniment to your journey. That said, I suppose this means I ought to actually answer the question of whether I thought this journey was worth it. And at the end of the day, I should probably find more time to play more puzzle games and maybe even more student games because I had a lot of fun with Temple of Starlight. While I found the narrative a bit weak, at least insofar as the significance of my choices, the actual gameplay itself kept me busy for a solid evening and was ultimately a fair bit of fun, to the point that I'd happily call the game a hit. So thanks again to Enlit Games, and I wish you folks good luck on your next endeavor. Though, please, you might want to look at that floating pumpkin thing in the bonus stage. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, folks. If you agree, disagree, or just have something to say to me, feel free to comment. And if you enjoy my efforts to create new indie reviews, interviews, and gaming content, hit the subscribe button and the bell. For Discord savvy folks, there's a link to my community, the Crit Hit Cauldron, in the video description, and to my Patreon so you can support me and the other members of Crit Hit. Also to my Twitch if you want to see me get dunked on in indie games live. That said, I'll catch you on the next episode of Crit Hit. Take care till then, folks.